Hello there. In this video we're going to show you how you can make your own personalised Enneper curved ring with a round gem, and we're going to assume that the gems are different size from the default 10mm size. We're going to assume it's 8mm. So if you start up Fluid Designer, see if you just click on Group Library there, we're going to use the 4-prong setting gem. So we're actually going to use this one here. Okay, I'll just drag and drop that onto the workspace. So we're not going to use the ring itself, but we are going to use these prongs and this round gem. So we're going to be using these items that we can view here in the window, and we're going to append those into our Enneper curve. Okay, so they come from the gem settings. If we just go back to File and New, we're going to use the create a ring, and we're going to create an Enneper curve ring again. So of course, you know, lots of these different rings could be used. But if I just drag the Enneper curve ring onto the workspace there, we could of course resize the inside. The default diameter at the moment, the inner diameter is about 15mm. We could hide that. We could select a different size for our ring, so I'm going to choose size K+, 16.1mm. So if you change that, then you do need to select the ring, and you need to change the ring size from inner diameter, that object, to the new size that we're using here, which is K+, and you'll see that the ring resizes there. Now we could change the diameter of this ring from 1mm to 1.5 or something like that if we wanted. I'm not going to worry about that in this instance, but we do need to fill in this gap in the ring here a little bit, and so I'm just going to set that at 4. Okay, so I'm going to use that as my basic default ring that I'm going to use. So we'll just hide those out of the way a second, and let's just view it from the top. So there's our Enneper ring, and now what we're going to do is, I just need to click Group Library there to refresh the window. We're going to use the gem setting 4-prong one, the one that I was showing you a second ago, with the round gem in it. So we're going to append items from this object into here. And we do that not by dragging and dropping it, but by going to append. And if we just go up the menu system until we get to groups, we're going to use gem settings 4-prong, and we're going to use the 4-prong round setting, and we need the objects from there. Now there are several objects that we want. We don't want the ring itself, we've already got a ring in this instance. We want the claws, we want the 4-prong round ring, and we will bring in the gem itself as well, which is just the round gem in this case. So if we just append those from the library, you can see what we've got there. Now, if we look at the default gem, if we look at the size of it, you can see it's 10mm. So if we assume that we've bought a gem that is 8mm in diameter, then what we need to do is to change that to 8mm. I need 8mm. And we need to change that to 8mm, and I'll just apply the scale. It doesn't really matter in this case, but I'll just apply it anyway. Now the Y depth might be different for the gem that you've got, but I'll leave it as it is. I'll leave it at 6mm. So but notice that that gem is now too small for this object here, the 4-prong ring round. So what can we do? Well, first of all, let's just look at what the cross-section applied to this is. It's 1 by 1.5. So I'm just going to remove that bevel object, and you can see what my curve object, my circular curve object is. It's just 10mm round. Well, my ring is 8mm, so why don't I just scale this down to 8mm by 8mm. Now, because this object is a curve, we must apply the scale here, otherwise we'll have real problems with 3D printing. So just do Control A on the keyboard and apply the scale. It's very important that you do that to the curve object here, or any object you're going to 3D print. We're not actually going to print the gem itself, but we are going to print this. Now we need to apply some depth to this, so it was, I think, 1 by 1.5. We could set it back to that, or we could just do 1 by 1. Yeah, I'll just do 1 by 1. So what we've got there is a gem, sorry, that is just slightly larger than the gem setting there, the 4-prong ring round gem setting there below it. So that fits okay now. Now what we want to do is we want to attach this to the ring itself. Well, first of all, let me view from the top. Let me view it from the back. So that's looking down on the ring. Now, one of the things we can see here is the actual ring itself is much wider than this gem. So why don't I actually narrow this down a little bit, the ring itself. So if we click on the ring, let's just set the columns back down to 1, so we're just looking at one, the original pattern that makes up this ring. And let's see, if we view it, let's view it from the front. And if we just press the tab key to go into edit mode, you'll notice that all the control points of this object are currently highlighted. And so what I want to do is I want to make it narrower. Well, the blue arrow tells me that that's the Z dimension. So what I want to do is I want to do S to scale and the letter Z to just scale it in the Z direction. And then if I just move the mouse, I can move it in like that. And when I click enter, that will fix it there. So I now can come out of edit mode with the tab key. And I can apply the scale here. So do Control A and apply the scale to that. Now let's put the count back in and let's just see where it is now. Yeah, that's okay. Now you can play around with these offset settings and the count to get different patterns. I'll stick to that at the moment. One thing to take into account though when you're using something like this is the pattern. Is it lined up with the y-axis? Well, as you can see, it's not quite lined up, so I do need to rotate it a little bit. Now, the best thing to do here is probably to change this object to a mesh first of all before I rotate it. So if I go to Tools, Object Tools and convert it to a mesh, if I now view it from the front, I should be able to see where the pattern is. Let me just hide the ring at the bottom, so the gem I should say at the bottom. So I've just switched off the view for the gem. And I want to rotate this object, and I think I've got to rotate it about the Z axis. You can play around with these values. Now I'm rotating it the wrong way there. And I need to just line it up so that the pattern fits exactly along the y-axis. It's somewhere between -3 and -4. So I'm actually going to type -3.5. And as you can see, that pattern's now nicely lined up. Now the reason I'm doing that is so that the gem fits correctly at the top here, and that these supports will fit exactly on the top of the ring as well. So I've just had to make that minor rotation to the ring just to line it up. I can switch on that object again. And the inner diameter, that's not important. No, I don't need that one, sorry, I don't need inner diameter. I just need to view the gem again. Okay, so now what I've got to do, I've got my ring scaled down so it looks a little better in comparison with the size of the gem. I've scaled the gem down. What I need to do now is to place these connectors back on the circle here so that when it prints we're okay. We've got a solid object. Okay, so what I can do is to select that one there and go into tab mode. and let's view it from the back. And what do we need to do? We need to bring it across here, and bring it across again. So that's, it's gone a bit too far there. Now at this point I think I'm going to have to switch off the snap and just bring it back out again slowly so that it fits into there. That's looking quite good. Now it's not coming through the top. I don't want it coming through the top. I want it somewhere in the middle of that so that I won't have any problems when I send this to NetFab. Okay, so I've lined up the top there now. I need to look at the bottom, so let me just hide the outer claw for a moment, and what I need to do is I need to position this so that it actually goes through the ring itself. So that's looking okay there. Yep, alright. And because I've positioned my ring exactly there in the center with that 3.5 degrees, minus 3.5 degrees that I did, I should have no problems with these prongs fitting in all 4 places around the ring because of the symmetry of the ring. So that's really quite important. So I can come out of edit mode on that one, and I'll just switch on the view for the outer prong. So we need to position this one now. Now I can do different things here. I could just position it at the top and not have it sticking into the ring. So if I view it, I want to view it from the top, I think. Yeah, view it from the top. Okay, so if I, with the outer prongs selected, if I press the tab key, I could move that up. Oops, move it up to there. And move that in. And move the top in as well. And if I just zoom in now, I just need to look at the positioning of this. We do need clearance for the ring itself. Could take that down a little bit so that it runs into there. Okay, and we just need to come this way a little bit as well. Go back up perhaps. So you've just got to play around here until you can get it into the right sort of position. Okay, that's not too bad. Probably need to move the top out a little bit, otherwise the gem itself's not going to go in. So let's just view it from the back and just see where we are here. We really want to I want the top control point. No, I want the top control point selected there, and view it from the back. And if I just press G on the keyboard, I can just move it out slowly, positioning it. Okay, so I just need that clearance for the ring itself. And if I just select both of those and just pull it down, it's just a case of playing around with this until you get exactly what you want. That's okay. I think that should do it now. Yep, so there we are. We've adjusted the upper prongs. We've got our ring, so we can come out of edit mode there. So what we want to do now is to change all of these to meshes. So we convert those all to meshes. We can then delete the gem because we don't want to actually print the gem. And then what we need to do, holding down the shift key, highlight those 3 objects first of all and join them together. And then with the if we highlight the ring itself and then join, we should now have one complete ring with an 8mm setting at the top for a round gem. Okay, so that's the end of this video. Hope you found it useful. Thank you. Oh, sorry, yeah, we Don't need to save this, sorry. What we do need to do is to export it. Never go to File and Save, always go to File and Export. Export it as a wavefront object to the desktop. So it's an Enneper curved ring with, let's say, an 8mm round gem. And that's the file that we would run through Netfab and then send to the printer. Okay, so yep, once that's saved, that's it for this particular lesson. Right. Yep, there we are. Thank you.